Hey y'all, my name is Heron, and today I have another fun free drawing class for you using my new method of mixed media. And so what we're going to need today are a few things. We're going to need once again our acrylic wash. So this is about like 1 or 2 parts water to 1 part yellow acrylic paint, which I mix in my handy dandy little Tupperware. We're also going to need a paper towel so that you can dab at the paint and get it to dry a little faster, but also make that really cool texture. We're going to need, of course, some thick paper, either some watercolor paper or some mixed media paper, preferably so that it doesn't, get soaking wet and mess up the paper. We're going to need 2 color markers today, a pink and a green, and also a black marker. So I also need a black marker. And we're also going to need a white paint pen. If you don't have one of these, don't worry too much about it. If you have some white acrylic paint, that would do just fine also. So finally, when all is said and done, we're going to have this beautiful, beautiful mixed media picture of a watermelon and a lime. So if this looks complicated, it's not too complex, but I would call this class a medium level. If you're looking for something a little easier, my rubber duck tutorial from the last time should be more of a sort of beginner level for everyone. But because this has these 3 very different shapes, I think this is more of a medium level. It requires a little more imagining the shapes in your head. It requires a little more foresight to maybe draw the lime before the wedge of watermelon. But I think if you believe in yourself, you can follow along and you're going to have a really good time. Okay, let's get to it. Today I'm going to draw something in this same style with, rather than a blue background, I'm going to use another yellow one, like from the peppers. So I got my yellow wash already. I'm just going to flip it over to the next page in my sketchbook. There we go. Next page in my sketchbook, ready to go. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. I'm going to go shake, 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 shake. Shake it up. We need to shake this because if we don't shake it, it'll separate because the acrylic and the water, they'll sort of separate out from each other. So you just give it a good shake, mix all that paint up. Oh yeah. All right. So now we got our paint. Just take the lid off. And once again, I've got my toothbrush right here. Got paint, toothbrush, you know the drill by now. Just gonna whoop, chuck some paint on there. And because we have our toothbrush, we can also take the toothbrush and go like that. Make some finer splatters, yeah. Like that. I don't know if that shows up very well because it's yellow, but making some cool little splatters, and we can just sort of, put some paint on there. Doesn't have to be too much. Actually, I'm thinking for a slightly lighter wash, because today's subject, as you may already know, is going to be watermelon. So, watermelon is famously not yellow. It is usually, well, actually that's not true. Watermelon can be yellow. I used to grow yellow watermelon as a kid. Most watermelon that we recognize in the grocery store today is not yellow because we're boring. But it's usually more of a red or a pink, and then the outside is very, very green. So right, I'm just dabbing at this with the paper towel. And again, the reason I do this is twofold. It creates a nice texture, which I think looks pretty cool, but it also primarily, it helps the paint dry faster,
I did a few experiments with this style early on, and I found that when I don't dab it with the paper towel, sometimes the paint, it just sits there forever and it takes over an hour to dry. No fun. Not great for teaching classes with, you know. So I started dabbing at it with a paper towel, and what do you know? It looks great. I love this texture. Very beautiful. So today, as I mentioned, I'm going to be... Oh, let me wait until I get back in the room. So today, as I mentioned, I'm going to be drawing a watermelon. And we've got this sort of almost split complementary triadic type color scheme with the yellow, the pink, and the green. But I also want to make it a little more complex today. So I love the idea of having a nice triangle shape, right? Having a triangle, like a slice of watermelon in the middle, got all those beautiful colors and shapes. And then in the background, I kind of want to do a whole watermelon, one of those really, really round, juicy looking ones. And so I have these two different shapes, a triangle and a circle. So I'm trying to visualize this in my head. Before I draw anything, before I put anything on the page, I'm trying to visualize how is this composition going to work. Circle, triangle, they can go pretty well together. You put the, the triangle out front, the circle sort of in the corner in the back. But then I think to give it a little more balance, a little more intrigue, I'm also going to draw a little lime wedge or lime slice in the front. And so that'll give me sort of circle, triangle, circle. And it's also good because the whole watermelon will be the biggest piece, right? The triangle will be sort of medium shaped, medium sized. And the lime wedge is going to be nice and small. So we've got a lot of variation, which is really good for our shapes. Want to have a variation in shapes, and you also want to make sure that they connect in a way that looks good and interesting. So I think by putting that triangle in the middle, surrounded by a big circle and a little circle, it'll create a really nice sense of depth and variety, but I'm not sure. I don't practice these things ahead of time, so I can't wait to find out. Let's give it a few minutes to dry, and I'll come back soon. Alright, and we're back. And we're just gonna tap, tap, tap all over the page and make sure that it's dry. It is dry. Alright, as you can see here, we've got two colors for today. We've got a pink and a green. And I think the green is a little more on the bluish green side, which I think is going to be nice because the pink and the yellow are both very warm colors. So it'll create a little extra contrast. So as I mentioned earlier, I would really like to draw three things. I'd like to draw a slice of watermelon, so a little triangle in the front. I'd like to draw a whole watermelon in the back, and then a little lime wedge in the front. But because we have such limited colors, because we only have these two markers, I'm going to try to be because we only have these two colored markers, I'm going to be very particular about which order I draw things in. So I'm going to start with the lime in the front being the element in the foreground so that I don't end up sort of overlapping the green and the pink too much. Because these markers, they're not paint markers. Well, this one is. These ones aren't, so they're a little translucent, so I don't want to muddy the colors too much. Anyway, just follow along, just trust me. Okay, so I'm going to start out with a circle for the lime. Let's see. Can you see that? Yeah, that shows up great. Alright, I'll start out with this small circle for the lime, right? We're just breaking it down into these really simple shapes. Circle. And then this lime also, it has another sort of circle in the back, right? So it kind of goes all the way back there. Give it a little bit of depth, right? Maybe I'll add a little more right there to make it clear what's going on. It'll make sense later. So that for now is our circle. It's our little line. Now we're going to start to draw the triangle, which is the medium slice of watermelon. So do a triangle like that. And I'll just, actually I want to make it a little bit bigger than that. I want to make it overlap. Yeah, see this nice overlapping shape with the lime. And then I'm going to fill it in, being careful not to cross over top of the lime so that we don't muddy the colors. Alright. We've got that. Nice big pink triangle. Alright. Fill it all the way in. Easy. Two simple shapes. Just check this. Yeah. Now what I'm gonna do is there's a bottom part to this, right? There's a rind to this watermelon, but I'm not gonna connect the green directly to the pink quite yet. I'm going to bring it around like this and create this funky little shape. And what I'm actually going to do next is I'm going to connect these textures, and I'm just going to dab at the green, create a little bit of a connected texture. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. And then I'm gonna do the same thing here. And so we got this nice sort of texture connecting the two things here. All right, close that. So we've got this nice connected texture in the watermelon. And the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a little bit of an edge on the other side too. So I'm actually going to create this sort of a shape. Yeah, look at that. I think that looks pretty cool. Maybe I'll give it a little, I'm not even going to fill this in all the way. I think it'll create more separation, but I will give it a little more texture also. All right. So we've got a simple lime, a simple watermelon. The next thing I'm going to do, continuing on with these shapes, with these basic shapes, is I'm going to draw the big watermelon in the back. But I think for the big watermelon, I don't want it to have too much black, because when you have three different shapes, you want to find a way to put an emphasis on the focus point. So the watermelon slice in the front, that's our focal point, right? So we want to keep the emphasis on the focal point, and that means the background element should be kind of faded into the background color a little bit, maybe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, these are these nice brush pens. If you don't have this option, don't worry about it. Use the brush. I'm going to draw the circle of the watermelon, but I'm going to draw it with this so it's not as visible. So I'm going to take this green, and making sure not to completely lop off this. Remember from the last video, if you saw it, readability. We want the triangle to still look like a triangle. So I'm just going to draw a big circle like that in the background. All right. So we've got this big sort of circle shape. And so the watermelon reference image that I'm using, it has these really cool shapes. So there's sort of like a spot here where the stem used to attach. And then what you want to do is you want to visualize this as a sphere, right? And so try to sort of contour around this as if it were not a circle, but a sphere. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna do this funky little pattern here. And I'm gonna do more funky little patterns here around the sphere. Yeah, see? I'm gonna do one like that, yeah. I'm gonna do one like that. And one like that. And see, I'm just sort of making squiggly lines, but it's starting to already look a bit like a watermelon. And do one like that, contouring around the edges of the watermelon. And this will make more sense maybe later when we add some more details. All right, cool. So we've got that sort of contouring, and so now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a little shadow to make the watermelon look even rounder. And I'm going to do it, believe it or not, with this same green. You'll see it. It'll all come together. I'm going to do like a that. And we're going to do like this. Maybe add a bit down there. And I'm just going to fill this in over top to create that really good depth that's going to help us so much. All right. Good. And then maybe we'll give this a little bit of a transitional texture too, right? Just a little bit. Because watermelons, you know, they're pretty round and smooth, but they're not perfectly round and smooth. Give it a little bit of extra oomph. Maybe I'll come in here, add a little more green to the outside of this, give it a little more oomph. And we're just trying to emphasize the shape without getting rid of this sort of yellowy background color and these nice little textures that we added. So yeah, all right, I think that's really looking good. All right, so we've got our basic shapes, our basic composition. I think it looks really cool so far. Now it's just time to add the details. So I'm going to go back to my picture of a watermelon. I'm going to look for, where would the seeds be, right? Where are the seeds? I'm going to take my black marker, whoops, and I'm just going to draw. It looks like the seeds, they sort of point downward, if that makes sense. They do like a that, like that, like that, like that. Yeah, you see what I mean? They're angled in a certain way. Yeah, I think so. All right, so we added in a few watermelon seeds. And let's see, what is the next thing I want to do? Next thing I want to do, I'm going to bring in, whoops, don't worry about that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing this in, the white paint pen. Shake, 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 shake. Off to the side, I'm going to try to get it to get some paint out. All right. I'm going to start adding these details. Let's do the lime first. So the lime, it has this, you know, white part in the center, which really makes it look like a lime. So let's start adding in those details, right? And just really make it pop. So I'll do like that. Yeah, that is already looking so cool, isn't it? And then maybe these aren't perfectly, they're not perfect lines. Let's give them a little more shape also. Yeah. You see, it doesn't take much to start looking really cool, to start looking really realistic. All right. We got our lime. Let's actually add a few little details over here. These juicy little bits would be sort of sparkling in the light, little pulp, whatever those things are called. It doesn't take much. You don't need to contour everything. You don't need to, do every little bit perfectly. Just the suggestion of the texture is all it takes. Yeah, see, that looks great. Maybe add a little thickness to this. And it took so little effort to get there. Don't overcomplicate things. Yeah. Yeah, and see, it looks like a lime already. Look at that. We made a lime. That's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to take my white contour and I'm going to add a little bit of this, because, this would be a little more white, a little less yellow. All right, I'm going to add actually a little bit of, contouring around this edge, because I feel like this is where the light would be coming from. It would have a little more white coming off of it. Yeah. Let me make it sparkle. Yeah, that looks juicy, doesn't it? Yeah, that's pretty cool. And you can even add like a little bit of, like around some of the seeds maybe. Yeah, those seeds are looking nice and juicy too. Again, it doesn't have to be every single one of them, but it really makes it pop. We'll come back in here, we'll add some texture to the bottom of the lime. See, that would be getting a little more white. Yeah, that looks really cool already. And then I think we'll add just a little bit to our watermelon. I'll try to do a really intense highlight up here. I think that's actually gonna, if we can just sort of like make it really, really white in this one area, because it's such a nice round shape, and we can even do like that. Yeah, I think that looks really cool for our watermelon. Maybe do a little off to the side here. Yeah, that's really cool. Just make it look really round. Oh yeah, look at that. That's awesome. Dab a little on here maybe. Yeah, because the watermelon too, it has these sort of like cool little shapes in the, in the flesh or whatever you call this. Like, this is a lot of me not knowing what words are. Alright, do like that. Just add in that sort of cool, funky watermelon texture. Yeah. Alright. And now I'm gonna add some more detail with the black. So I'm actually gonna come back in here. I'm gonna add a little bit under here. I think, that's much needed. Do just a little bit of that. Yeah. Maybe add some black in there for where it connects to that. That's pretty cool. Maybe even like there, and do around the lime a little bit. And then you can add these like, just really, really subtle textures here too, especially right by the bottom. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I'm actually even gonna add like a little bit sharper contrast inside The lime, I know it's not really gonna look like that, but sometimes if you just want something to look a little more 3D, you just add a little bit more contrast and trust the process. All right, that lime's looking really juicy and good. Yeah, that's really cool. And then I know I said I wanted to push this watermelon all the way to the back, but I think I'll put a little bit of this on it too, just to make it sort of tie in with everything. Let's see, what do we want? Like that, yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Just a little bit, not too much. All right, just to make it sort of pop, tie in with everything else. Yeah, maybe I'll even do a bit of a, like a shadow of this onto the watermelon, like that. Oh, I think that looks really neat. Yeah. In fact, let's do a little bit of that as well. Yeah, see, they both cast a shadow on each other. Oh, how cool is that? Yeah, I think that's really neat. All right. So now we're coming to the part where I think the main elements are there. Everything's looking really good, really juicy. The only question left is, how do we want to add some whimsy back into this? All right, so now we have these sort of stagnant shapes. We have a lot of green. I think we need to add a little bit more of this. And sometimes if you just take a second, look at the piece, say, what is unbalanced about this? Obviously there's these two big shapes that are green. Let's add some more pink. And I think just to emphasize how beautiful and juicy these shapes are, I'm gonna draw these little guys. Yeah. Oh, that looks like a little heart. Maybe I'll draw like a heart up here too. Oh, looks like a juicy heart. That's funny. Yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. Maybe I'll add some down here too, just sort of like a, I don't know, scribble. Yeah, make it almost like a shadow at this point. Yeah, it does look like a shadow, sort of. Yeah. Sometimes just blocking in a whole big area with a specific color can give it so much more depth. It just breaks the screen up, you know? Breaks up all the shapes. Doesn't even have to be a specific shape. Nothing, just slap it on there. And see, this is the really cool thing about the limited color palette is once you get something grounding in there, once you get those shapes in there, you can just have fun with it. Yeah, doesn't matter what you do because you got that beautiful limited color palette. Actually, now that I have sort of this shadow I'm going to add to it, I'm going to add this secondary shadow, just make it pop even more. Yeah. Yeah, look at that. That looks pretty cool. Add a little back here, maybe even. Yeah. That's cool. Look at that. That looks so 3D. And we put so little effort into it. Let's see. I think the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to add some weird little squiggles. Squiggle. Yeah. I'm just going to squiggle around the edges. I think it adds a little motion sometimes, you know. Add some more of these. Overlap with the heart even. Yeah. Just add these cool little squiggle designs. Go a little crazy with them. If it's missing something, try something else. Yeah. And let's see, this feels like it's not very dry, but I'm gonna try anyway. Yeah. Burp, burp. And just kind of create a flow, create a motion, something that, you know, just makes it fun, makes it reminiscent of whatever thing you're making. Boop. Or not. Draw some little circles, doodads. I don't know. I think it looks pretty cool. I draw some more little hearts down here even. Why not? You know what? It's your art. Do what speaks to you. Yeah. I'm just gonna cover this thing in little hearts. Why not? Why not? I'm gonna draw another little heart right there. Didn't come out that well as a heart. That's okay. Alright. I think we have a pretty cool piece, guys.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you had fun. Hopefully, you made a really cute piece with some watermelons and some lime. It's very springtime, it's very juicy, you know. I hope you had a good one. And as always, take care, stay safe, y'all. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.